Hi everyone, just wanted to show you something I'm working on. This video is going to be a bit technical, so if that's boring to you, please feel free to move along and come back in another video. But anyways, for those interested, let's move along. So what we have here is a bunch of triangle faces. For example, here is one triangle here by the black lines. You can see here kind of along the sides here, creating this one big what's called a triangle face. And there's four lines, sorry, coming out from it. This is the center, and these lines go towards four other faces that define it. So for example, here we have this big triangle. When you subdivide this triangle, you actually, let me see if I can align them up here. See this big black line here? And then you got these slightly smaller grayer lines here. Well, these gray lines here actually represent the subdivisions of the other ones. So that's basically what these rays are doing. They're pointing to the subdivisions. So the point here of this big triangle, right? You have rays that are casting down to this one, to this one, to this one, and to this one. So look at this triangle here, this one here in the center, right? And now look in the center of the triangle, and you can see the ray is hitting the center. It's also hitting the center of this one, the center of this one, and the center of this one. So that's the relationship between this triangle, this big black one, this big black line, and then this big long gray line here. If you follow it all along here, how it's subdivided. Basically, when you subdivide it, you get one triangle in the center, like this. Now each of these are pointed to from this big one. Why does that matter? Well, I'm going to tell you. Because basically, if the player is far enough away, you only need to render these big triangles. You don't need to render too many of the smaller ones. But as the player gets closer, I can decide, hey, the player is so close, we need to maybe not render these, lesser detailed ones. Now we can move into some of these more detailed faces. And so now you can see here, there's this gray one here that's actually more detailed than this bigger giant black triangle here. It might be kind of hard to see it. I apologize, but from the side you can kind of see it. Let me see if I can get it from the side here. So you can see here, here's a triangle center, the face here, right? And you can see that it casts down its rays to here. I know it's still kind of hard to see, but maybe from the inside you can see it a little better. So from the inside you can see how each of the black faces here are pointing down to each of these little lighter gray faces. See, more of the gray faces. So that's my approach. That's it. Just wanted to show you how cool that looked. Showing the hierarchy of faces. That's only 2 levels of detail. I'm going to show you 4 levels of detail. So this is a much more detailed sphere, and that's And by the way, that's creating 4 levels of detail of an icosahedron in literally milliseconds. Using my iterative algorithm approach, it's extremely fast. I can generate these things on the fly quite. I can create a lot of these actually in a relatively short time. So it's actually quite nice. Anyways, so if we move into here, you can really see the tree hierarchies of these. How they're related. If I just kind of move here back and forth. If I stand still, it's kind of hard to see it, but if I move back and forth, you can kind of see, get an idea of the tree relationships. Right? You can see how there's a point up here, right here, and then as I move closer here, you might be able to see it. Actually, maybe if I follow it through, you can see it. So you can see here's a point here, and then it comes to this point here, right? And so now if we were to follow these points down, let's see if I can do this properly here. Sorry guys. There we go. So it hits another. See where it splits here? See it splits here? That's because it's hitting a face. This black line here, you can't really see it. Maybe if I can highlight it. There we go. See the gray lines? So that's actually creating these gray lines here, creating another face. So now if I go down to more detail, right? So you can see now it's hitting. I think it's this one. There you go. Nope, wrong one. That's it. So this is the highest level of detail one. So if you kind of see, you can kind of, if you go to the side, you can actually kind of see how the different spheres are layered on top of each other. So, of course, in the actual game, these will all be the same radius, but just for visual effect, I've increased the radius of each of the spheres so they stand off from each other and you can see better. So here we have each of the different levels. You can see at each level how each face references 4 other faces, right? And then that each of these faces at this level will reference 4 other faces, and at this level the faces will reference 4 other faces, and so on. So in a tree-like fashion. So it really is cool to see the hierarchy, the relationships. It just looks like a kind of a cool visual effect, actually, in its own right. But just to see the relationships of all of them, levels of detail, it's pretty cool. Well, let's see how long it takes to render. Let's say 128. Let's see, longitudinal divisions. That would be. Let me see here. So let's try to create 8 levels of detail, up to 256 longitudinal divisions of the sphere, and see, literally less than a second by far, if not just within a few milliseconds. We've got 8 levels of detail of an extremely detailed sphere. I can probably try to turn these off quickly here. See if I can just get down to the planet itself. See if I can't select that here. Wow, there's a lot of drawings to get through here. See if I can get to this. Come on, there we go. Come on. So this is a huge detailed sphere. Like, there's a lot of detail in this. Anyway, so you can actually see all the relationships of every single face to every other face, and these relationships with all 8 spheres is literally, we're talking about milliseconds to just render all of this in one sweep. It's extremely fast. So I'm actually looking forward to using this, and that's pretty much it. Thanks a lot.